Hey everyone, how's it going? Meg here again with another story, but also just kind of an observation. So this one is called GWs Don't Help Each Other. And so I'm going to start it off by saying that the reason I thought of this was last week, me and my fiance went over to my sister's for dinner, and we had some mutual friends of ours there. So me and my sister and our mutual friend were sitting at a table chatting, and my father happens to be very ill right now. He's not very well and getting up in age, and probably going to, I mean, I don't want to think it, but he's not very good right now. Okay. So we were just talking about his health and everything. And our mutual friend of ours who knows that we came from a Jehovah's Witness background just piped up and asked, well, their community is the Jehovah's Witnesses, right? So why aren't they getting any help from them? Like, does anyone help them out? And I said, no, they don't. And they're not gonna, because my parents are not strong in the faith. And my sister was like, that's not true. And she kind of has this way of she always goes on the defense whenever I say anything negative at all about the organization or the general culture within the organization or anything of the sort. Even though she's well aware of certain things that go wrong and that are just not right within the organization, like child abuse and all of that, she has been made well aware of that because of that recent W5 documentary. When I said it in the past, she never believed me, but after watching the documentary, it's kind of hard to avoid that and evade that. But she still always goes on the defense of the organization. And she said, well, no, that's not true. They would help, but mom and dad don't want anyone there anyway. They don't want people to help. And I was like, well, okay. Like, but they're also not considered, strong witnesses, because at this point in time in their life, they're not able to attend every meeting and therefore are looked upon as weak and therefore aren't really going to receive much help. The only type of help they would get is elders dropping in for, shepherding calls or somewhat, to give encouragement or something like this, or dropping off the magazines every now and then. But no, they're generally not going to get help from their community like most people in other religious organizations do. They don't get much help in that way, even though it would be extremely helpful if someone just said, I'm going to bring them a meal, once a week, drop off something so that, you know, she doesn't have to worry about cooking. Because my mother works full time right now, and my father obviously can't work because he's so ill. And she also has to come home and take care of him because he's at a place right now in his life where he literally can hardly get out of bed or get out of his chair. And I go over there quite frequently to help clean up and stuff like that. But it would be really helpful to my mom if people in her community cared, if they dropped in once in a while with a meal or something to put in the freezer, or hey, can we help you clean this around your house or something, because you work full time and are obviously tired. But they don't do that. So my sister went on the defense saying that, well, if they asked, then people would help. And I just kind of said, all right, well, the whole point of helping somebody, if you're like a close family friend or a relative, and you see them enough to realize that they need help, you don't have to ask all the time, hey, you know Do you need help? It's pretty obvious and evident. And if you really want to help somebody that you're close to within your community, you go out of your way to do it, to make yourself available, and to just ask. And when I see that you might need some help with this, can I help? And of course, you don't want to offend people by like interjecting or just doing something, but people who really want to help make themselves available to do that. And nobody has done that in the case of my parents, with my mom working full time and my dad being really ill. No one in their Jehovah's Witness community has offered help, and they won't. So I kind of, in the conversation that me and my sister and our mutual friend were having, I just kind of said, like, no, they're not going to get help. And our friend was like, well, I find that really sad. And I'm like, yeah, it is. It's pretty sad, but that's just the way it is. That's the culture within the organization. They're not, spiritually strong, because they're not attending all the meetings, and therefore they're not going to get much help. So, and then my sister starts to say, well, remember this other lady that we used to know, this older lady, and she proceeded to say her name and then said she always had people visit her and blah, blah, blah. To which I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. But I didn't think about it until later on. That lady she brought up, okay, guys, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this lady. She was an elderly woman who, when I moved into that congregation, I didn't even know her because she was never at the meetings. She always listened in by telephone. And she was very, like, I don't know how old she was, but, gray, curly hair, all this. And she could barely walk, because she had such bad pain in her legs and all this kind of stuff. Now, I didn't even meet her very quickly after moving into this congregation that I was in last. I ended up meeting her one day because we were out in service, and then it was like a cold winter day, and the elder taking the lead or whatever in our car group was like, oh, why don't we go visit so-and-so? So everyone's like, yeah, okay. So because nobody wanted to continue walking from door to door on a cold winter day in Canada, they went in to go visit this older sister so that they can continue counting time. Because you don't have to now stop your time, because you're not just like at Tim Hortons having a lunch break. You're just, oh, we're going to go visit so-and-so and make ourselves some tea and coffee and see what she has. And we can continue on our time because we're encouraging her. Okay, guys, now I don't know about you, but I don't really consider that helping or helpful in any way. I just consider that being a burden on someone because they're already old and can barely clean up for themselves or take care of themselves. And now you're there, with your whole car group out in the ministry, trudging in and encouraging her. So, but you know what? I never knew of anyone who specifically went out of their way to bring her a meal or to go and clean her house. And I'm not kidding, guys. She had like birds that she didn't have in cages. She never kept them in cages. So they used to like fly around, and there was like bird crap around the apartment. And yeah. So this lady was like living in a mess because she was too ill to take care of herself. And we would just go visit her while we were out in service to continue counting our time. But nobody ever took it upon themselves to go and see to her needs or to help her out with something when it was really necessary. So in my mind, I don't think that was helping somebody. I think that was just exploiting the fact that, hey, we can go chill out in her place while it's cold outside and continue counting time. Now, I'm going to give you a reason why I think that this is the case, that witnesses don't tend to help each other out very much. It's not because these people, all of them, don't like to help, or are just generally not good people. That's not the case. In most cases, a lot of cases, I should say, not most, because I wouldn't know, but a lot of cases, there are really loving, genuine people that I knew when I was a witness, and they would help. But the fact of the matter is, if they are good witnesses, strong witnesses, they don't have time. They don't have time to help people who need it because they're too busy. They're kept way too busy in the organization or the high control group or the cult. All right? They are way too busy. And that is the whole reason why a lot of them can't help. Like, let's think about it for a sec. The elders, those guys have so many things that they have to do all the time. They have to think about a lot of ridiculous stuff and the politics that they are kept busy with just within their own congregation, on the congregation level alone. They don't have time to think or care that much about other people unless it relates to taking care of them judicially. So if they catch word that somebody is like doing something wrong, then they'll be calling them up and like, hey, what can we do here? But in most cases, they just don't have the time or energy. They have families in addition to everything else. And now you have the other people, their families, pioneers, people that are just generally trying their hardest. Even if they're not a pioneer, all the pressure put upon you to live up to all the things you're supposed to do as a witness. It is like a never-ending list, and it's constantly playing in your mind. So if you are not doing everything that you are supposed to be doing, that doesn't mean you're not thinking about it all the time. That doesn't mean that you're not kept busy, just the mental exhaustion alone and the guilt that you feel because you're not accomplishing everything that you want to. That's enough to diminish any desire to want to help or to have any motivation to help another person. Whereas in non-cultic, non-cult religions, non-high control group religions, they definitely encourage their members to help other people, obviously, because they tend to go off of like what Jesus said in the scriptures when he was around. So they encourage helping others, and they don't have such a weight on their members that the members are just so bogged down by everything they have to do for the organization that they don't have time for anything else, for themselves or to help others or whatever. People generally have a lot more time on their hands, and they are going to have more motivation and more desire. When they see someone that needs help, they're going to be able to have the time to provide it, and that's really nice. Yeah, no real friends in the watchtower. Yeah, it's true. That's true. So I think that it's a good thing that other religions, as much as I'm not a religious person or anything, but I think that other religions are a lot more charitable down to the individual members and just a lot more helpful to their friends and family because they have the time. Not weighed down by all of the tasks that the watchtower, puts on people. When you're a witness, you just don't have time, you don't have energy, you're just constantly bogged down in your mind and physically. So that's a big reason why I think a lot of people in the organization just don't help each other. And I just find it so funny that this organization calls itself a charity when even when you look at it as at an organizational level, there's like no charitable works that it does, and yet it's claiming charitable status, and it's tax exempt, and it is rolling in the dough. Like I was surprised to learn that in Canada they are, I think, number 15 in the charities. Yeah, they're just tax dodging, exactly. Number 15 in the charities for the most earned um, donations. Now, this is just donations, okay, in Canada. Like, we're not even talking about how much um, money they have in property. Like, these guys are worth so much, and their charitable works are like zero, pretty much. I mean, the only thing that they say that they do in the way of charity is relief work after, like, hurricanes and tsunamis or whatever. And that is even very slim, because if they do any, it's just to help their own. They go in and they help put back up other witnesses' houses and rebuild their kingdom halls. And even that, I would say, they're more concerned about putting back up their own structures than they are about helping anybody else. So they are so ridiculous. Like, I can't even believe that they can call themselves a charity, to be honest. Other religions do a much better job when it comes to charity on an organizational level and down to individuals. Like, I have known people who are religious, and one person in particular who, after she had her baby got like sick right after, and she had another older baby and her husband, and people in their church, not because she asked them to, but because they heard, like, oh, she's sick, and she has, right, I don't know what happened there, phone rang again. So she had another kid on top of her newborn. Let's take care of her. And they brought food over, and these guys had like food in the freezer for so long because of the charitable acts of people in other religious organizations when they like have time, right? When they have energy and time. All right, so that's all I want to say about that. I will make another video in a little bit here, probably either today or tomorrow, on a more serious topic and kind of a story. Okay, so stay tuned. Hope you guys will watch. There's like one viewer. Okay, bye.